Okay, welcome to pre-market for December 23rd, 2020. This is not financial advice. These are just my own ideas. Take them at your own risk. First, I want to start off. We've got quite a few inside days, some looking better than others. Obviously, Amazon is inside day, which I love. Let me make the just because, in my opinion, when you're inside day, you don't have to think quite as hard. So, I mean, it's almost like double inside, right? So we'll see which way she wants to break. I mean, right now, she is a little bit below yesterday's close. So ideally, when we're looking at pre-market for stocks that are strong, they're going to be above yesterday's close. But as we all know, we have what, 40 minutes, so that can definitely change by the time pre-market comes around. One thing to look at too, the volume profile's been a little bit more difficult to gauge, again, because where it is right now could be completely different by the time it opens. So things are just moving all over the place. If anyone was watching futures last night, we were way down at one point, and last time I checked, we were up again. I haven't looked before I jumped on screen share here, but expect, again, a lot of indecision. Some things are near all-time highs and pushing ahead. Anytime that happens, you've got exhaustion risk. But just to review, and we'll see if any of the charts look like this. With volume profile, if we're using that as kind of first reaction out of the gate, what we ideally want to see is extremes. So either we're way at the top of the volume profile or way at the bottom. If we're way at the bottom, typically a long, and we want to see price above point of control right here and developing point of control. So point of control is where pre-market the most transactions have happened. Developing point of control is where things are developing. So it kind of monitors as things start to change. Amazon, I'm not really getting anything out of this by looking at it. So what I do with the inside days, for those of you that don't know, you kind of mark the highs and lows, you trade the break in either direction. I have put a 130-minute chart here. That will break yesterday, well, every trading day down into 3 parts. Sometimes you can get some more clarity by looking at the 130-minute. If I look at this, it looks somewhat bullish, at least up to a magnitude of yesterday's highs. We'll just have to see. So I like that. Let's see, CBRE, that's inside day as well. And that's a nice little doji hammer candle at the bottom of the range. We are sitting just a hair below yesterday's close. It's been in a downtrend. This 130-minute doesn't look particularly bullish to me because it looks like it's just flagging back to the 9 EMA. Again, I don't really use the moving averages to trade off of necessarily. I use the strat signals, but it's just nice to have them sometimes to just know where you are in space. And other traders do look at them, and sometimes that in itself is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this inside day, trade the break in either direction. Lows, that is also inside day. What's kind of nice about lows is right now we're just sitting on yesterday's close. So not a lot of gapping going on. We're not getting a lot of info looking at any type of pre-market profile, but for that type of setup, assuming it stays right there, you can actually take pre-market off and take your strat signal right off of the 5-minute. So, ideally, again, you want to wait for the break in either direction. Sometimes with these setups, if I get a good, let's say 2-2 reversal back up and there's enough magnitude, sometimes I'll take it before the break, but that, as you know, can be a lot more risky. So just be aware of that if you choose to do such a thing. Let me just move this. What it looks like to me, Lowe's has got a average to range somewhere around 4 points. Is the week, for it to take the week, it's up around 166.25-ish. Looks like it wants to go there. Whether it will take it this week or compound into next week, I really don't know, but it's toward the upper end of the range on the weekly and this daily mother bar type of candle. Let's see, win. Also inside day. Right now, we've gapped above 2 days ago's high, so it's looking pretty strong. With these types of trades, again, what you want to see is for it to hold that gap as a sign of strength. I mean, for win, that's a pretty sizable gap. Win has a range, I want to say, of about 7, no, 4, about just shy of 4.5. So we've exhausted just shy of half of that with this gap. So just keep an eye on that inside day. Right now, we've broken it to the upside. If it can hold, there is some more room for it to continue higher. And if you look on the daily, we've got some magnitude there as well. Look at X, that's also inside A. X right now, we're just, again, a hair above yesterday's close. I'm looking here. Yeah, just a hair. I mean, we closed at 1687, pre-market 1694, but still it's above. So something like this, there's not a ton of magnitude on X, but it can move when it wants to get going. Once again, ideally you wait for the break of that inside day in either direction. You could take it with, ranging back up to that high, yesterday's high, but more risk if you do that. Let's looking at Facebook. Facebook, another one it's just a hair above where it closed. It closed at 267. It's at 267.24. Doesn't look overly bullish to me. Let me see pre-market, what we're looking at. But because it's not too far off from the close, there's not a huge gap. Sometimes those can be cleaner setups. Looking at our volume profile, I mean, these things are all over the place, could be anywhere by the time we open. But if it were to be, let's say the volume profile looks just like this at the open, and it's right at the bottom above point of control, there is some room for it to go up. My ideal setup would be we're at the bottom and all of this garbage, all the volume is somewhere at the top. Really don't have that here, but Facebook can move. Big candle yesterday, something to keep an eye on, not overly thrilling. One thing I do possibly like, and I was a little bit, usually when you see Tesla get sold off almost to the 20 EMA with a big hammer back up, I don't care about the color. Usually when you see that with Tesla, it's ready to go back up the next day. However, you'll see pre-market right now, it's pretty well below yesterday's close. So no particular sign of strength there. We all know that can change a lot with pre-market. I do like this volume profile if it stays up toward the top end of the range and it's below point of control. This is a decent short setup as a first reactionary bounce or reactionary move if we're near the top, because you see there's no volume here and that increases as we go down, so that creates a void in this area. Only issue is, as it stands right now, we're very mid-range, but something to keep an eye on with Tesla. Either we're going to get continued down and test yesterday's lows at 613, or it's going to decide that it wants to pop back up. I know that's not overly helpful, but Tesla's always got some room to move and room to make money. One thing to note for intraday trading on Tesla, you could have done this all day long yesterday, is it loves the 20 moving average, which is right here on the 5-minute. So you'll notice, let's say you missed the short out of the gate yesterday, you just wait because it's going to come back over to that 20. So you could have taken it right here when it failed this developing point of control. It's near the 20. You could have taken that for a ride down to the bottom of this volume profile. And you see here, again, it's too far away from the 20. So here's your perfect hammer back up with a target of the 20. And you notice as it goes on right here, we're on the 20. You get a nice hammer right here, take it along back up. So just something to note about Tesla. It can be fun just to do some quick trades there. It has enough range you could still make, especially with options, some really good money. Chewy I was looking at, but you know, a lot of these things are giving conflicting signals. So Chewy, that isn't an overly bullish looking candle. Right now it's below yesterday's close. It's kind of been all over this morning, as you can see on the 5-minute. If we get a failure, you know, we could do 2-2 back down. The only problem is this wick is fairly large. It may be a better setup going into next week. Let's just double check the range. Chewy's got a range of about 5. So yeah, we still have range to go down, but you get this big wick. It's a judgment call. Sometimes when things start reversing, I don't wait for the wick, because in a case like this, if it opens and heads down, there's some decent range down to that wick, and then it could turn around and bounce. These are all judgment calls you're going to have to make, though, and kind of do what you're comfortable with. There's conflicting signals to me, because looking at it with all 3 candles broken down, you know, on the daily here, using the 130, that looks like it wants a continuation up to at least that magnitude. So there's not a lot of clarity looking at those side by side. Nike, and then we'll kind of try to go back and whittle down to top picks here. Nike, I like for a long. It's above, you got this hammer right on the daily. You're above yesterday's close, and then you've got magnitude up to the highs from 2 days ago. Volume profile as it stands right now looks more short than long, but if you watch these stocks, oftentimes they will do a quick sell before they take off. So magnitude here, if this stays below point of control at the top of the range, you know, you have a possibility to go up from 143 back down to 142. That's about a point. It's not a ton. Or you can be patient and wait till it gets to the bottom of that volume profile to take off for a long, because I think that's a pretty good long setup as it stands right now. So I would put Nike towards the top of that list. Let's just look at some others. Overstock real quick. This is another one. It was well above yesterday's highs earlier. It's come back down. Or yesterday's highs, yesterday's close. Now it's coming back down and sitting right there. That may negate what I was looking at. But you've got some magnitude on this 3 bar to go back up. One thing to note, though, with some of these real big candles, overstock at times will get that follow through continuation. You know, here we've got a huge 3 down, and then we had a slight gap lower at the open, pop back up, and then sold off again. This isn't overly big for a 3 candle. I mean, as I'm looking at it right now, it looks more like it's primed for a continuation down. Volume profile isn't helping us. It's very mid-range. Keep an eye to see where it is once we reach pre-market. Look at one more. Nike is my favorite of these so far. Nike and Amazon I'll probably be watching. We'll look at Lulu because that was sitting right on yesterday's close. Boy, these things can change. Yeah, a few minutes ago it was right on yesterday's close. Sometimes those setups are easier to trade at the open because you can just take pre-market off and trade the strat signal on the 5-minute chart, keeping an eye on your strat signal here on the daily. I wish that didn't move. It's at the top of that volume profile with some room to go down. If it stayed this way and is below point of control, this is the type of setup you'd want to see for a short at the open. Not a ton of magnitude though. So not overly helpful as it stands, but something you can keep an eye on to pre-market. So top watches, SPY was also, did we look at SPY? Inside day, pre-market, we are just shy of yesterday's close. So the easier trade on SPY is if it breaks 368.31, that upper wick. You'd be looking for, does anyone else have this odd, really huge wick on their SPY candle? I don't know if that's a misprint.
I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a bad tick.
It looks like a bad tick to me for sure. Because
Yeah.
if I'm looking at my other charting software.
Yeah, Rob was talking about it the other day. He said it was a bad tick.
Yeah, it sure looks like it because it looks like the actual high in that candle was somewhere right around 369-ish, not off the chain at 378. So magnitude, if it broke to the upside, initially would be about 370-ish and then potentially up to 371. That who knows, you know, where this thing's going to go. Again, look at this. After hours, I don't give a ton of credence to because not many professional traders, anything could happen. You can move the markets in any direction. But I have noticed from time to time, something like this that really stands out, you mark it on your chart and it does come into play later in the day when there is an extreme like that. I'm going to mark it on my chart just in case. So I would keep an eye on SPY. I don't mind that for a kind of out of the gate setup. See if volume profile is telling us anything at all. If it stayed up here near the top, this is a beautiful short setup if it's up here below point of control. If it comes all the way back down above point of control, it could also be a great long setup back up. Right now, once again, it's not telling us much because all it's doing is sitting mid-range. So if volume profile is mid-range like that, I generally don't get overly excited until it kind of gets to one extreme or the other. So trading volume profile, the most important thing to remember, you want an extreme way near the top, way near the bottom, above or below point of control, depending on whether you're going short or long. So I put SPY up there. I can zoom real quick. Zoom looked like, yeah, Zoom is gapping down. Not a ton, about 40 cents. These types of candles on the daily, and again, there's some conflicting time frame continuity. Once again, I'm not overly as concerned with full time frame continuity when I'm doing quick trades in the first couple hours, because if there's range, it can do anything, and that's not going to come into play. Where you really got to keep an eye on that is if you're doing more of a swing trade or a longer term play. They're much easier if these things go full time frame continuity. To me right now, this doji yesterday looks like it was just a thinking candle, and it looks like it wants lower to me. So Zoom I like for a potential short. Volume profile right now also looking short, assuming we get this developing point of control. Did it jump back up and I just can't see it here? No, it hasn't yet. So ideally, if it stays at the top of the range, we want to see point of control and developing point of control shift back up towards the top. So right now, Amazon, Spy, Zoom, and Nike are my top watches. I'll keep an eye on things as we get closer to pre-market. If there's some things shaping up that we're not seeing right now, I'll type that in chat. And then we got about 5 minutes for charts, questions people want me to go over. Sorry guys, it's a little mixed baggage this week, just typical of a holiday week and obviously everything we have going on. So what questions do people have? Anything?
You just mentioned that you thought that on Zoom that two candle you called it a thinking candle.
Yeah.
Is that because it's not really the top of the hammer isn't all the way at the top? Is that why you're calling
Yeah,
it a
so
thinking?
it's very indecisive. Like if this was all the way at the top, it would potentially be a different story. Even
Mm-hmm.
though there's huge wicks on this thing, it ended up more mid-range. So it doesn't give us a ton of information, but often whether you've got a big candle on the upside with a thinking candle, a doji, that can
Right.
be a continuation sign. I don't care what color it is. So if this candle was green and then we had a thinking candle that was red, often that's a good sign it's going to continue up. It just needed a break. This right now looks to me like it wants down, especially because we got this tiny body, but it's right near the bottom of that body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just what I've found kind of over time with these candles.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to say, right, until the market opens. That's just what I've tended to observe. So we'll have to see where she opens. Does she stay below? Yeah, yesterday it took out these guys that were long, and then it took out there probably weren't too many remaining shorts here, so it really didn't affect shorts too much. My guess is there's probably still some folks short from 2 days ago in this guy because they wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
gotten stopped out yesterday.
Right.
So just something to keep in mind. If we get above these highs, you're gonna have some shorts that maybe got short yesterday and start freaking out, and that could drive it higher.
Right.
That doesn't look incredibly likely. Nice short setup here. If we could just get these to bounce back up to the top, I'd be more comfortable. The one thing that's kind of nice though with these setups, if this doesn't move, we do have a daily level right here, the close from 2 days ago. And truthfully, the close from 2 days ago, and I guess that's another reason this is a thinking candle, and yesterday's close are almost dead nuts the same. In other words, yesterday didn't do anything except maybe take out some longs right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There was no net change by the time the day was over.
Right.
So looking like a short to me. We'll see.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions? Don't be shy. You guys all set to go? Yes, everyone's so quiet lately. Pretty checked out for the holiday weekend, I guess. So going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, I'm closing the recorder. I'll post what I have so far under pre-market trade ideas, and if I have some quick updates as we get closer to the open, I'll throw those in there too. Have a safe day trading. I expect it to potentially be a little wonky like it was yesterday. Let everything tell you where it wants to go. Have your idea, but let the market show you. Don't jump
Yep.
right in out of the gate. All right. Happy trading.
Thank you.
Talk to you
Thanks, Jen.
soon.
Thanks.